Susan Klaus here with another installment of Tuesday Tales. Today's tale is told by a guest storyteller, Mary Morgan Smith, who worked at Northland for many years and has been telling stories for even longer than that. She doesn't even know where or when she learned the story she's going to tell today. We filmed it in her backyard, and there are airplanes going over and birds chirping, and I hope all of that helps to make it feel like you are sitting right in her backyard with her. Now, this story is about bears and biscuits. And Mary Morgan Smith told me that when she and her family visit national parks, occasionally they will spy a bear. And she was always very careful to keep her distance. And you'll know why after you hear the story.
There was an old couple who lived way out in the country, and they always loved it when their grandkids came to visit. And the grandkids loved to visit them because it was so different from where they lived. And they loved their grandparents, and their grandmother was a terrific baker. And she was known throughout the county for her biscuits. Now, you probably have had biscuits. And I'll bet that if you had homemade biscuits made at your home, you probably had a tube from the store that you opened up and wrapped, and then you took them out and you just put them on a cookie sheet. Yeah, that's not how she made them. She made them what's called from scratch. So one day she was deciding to get out to make biscuits. And she got out a big old crockery bowl. And as soon as she did that, her husband and her two grandkids, a boy and a girl, came right up to the table to watch her, just waiting for the biscuits. As a matter of fact, they even had a pet squirrel. Not many people have pet squirrels, but they did. And that pet squirrel liked the biscuits too. But the old woman got out her flour, she got out the sugar, and she had her buttermilk ready, and she had salt, but she didn't have any sodium saleratus. Now, you may not know what sodium saleratus is, but you absolutely have to have it to make biscuits. And you probably have some in your house, only you don't call it sodium saleratus. It may be in the pantry in a gold box. It's called baking soda. And if you don't have baking soda, you're not going to get a biscuit. So she said to her grandson, she said, "Boy, here's a quarter." This was a long time ago. "You go to town, go to the general store, and have the storekeeper give you some sodium saleratus for me. And mind, do not goof off, do not play around, no fiddling in the creek. Just go there, get the sodium saleratus, and get back." And he said, "Yes, ma'am." And he took off. And he was walking down the road, and he came to a bridge, and there was a really nice stream under the bridge, and he didn't stop, he just kept on going. Felt a little odd, but he kept on going, and he walked all the way into town. And he got to the general store, and he went up to the storekeeper and he said, "My grandma would like some sodium saleratus." And he put down the quarter. And the storekeeper looked at him and said, "Is your grandma baking biscuits?" "Yes, sir." "Oh, she makes the best biscuits. Tell her to make sure to save one for me." "Yes, sir." And so the storekeeper put sodium saleratus into a poke bag. That's what they used to call a brown paper bag. And he gave that poke bag to the boy. And the boy went home. And he saw some friends. He just waved to them. He saw the library and he sighed, but he kept going. And finally, he got back to that bridge. And he was just walking across the bridge when up rose a great, huge bear. And the bear said, "Who's that walking across my bridge?" It's just me. I'm just a kid. I've got some sodium saleratus in my bag here for my granny." "Well, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat you and your sodium saleratus." And he swallowed the kid and the sodium saleratus down. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Grandma was waiting for her sodium saleratus, and she was getting a mite irritated. And she said, "That boy, he's usually pretty good, but I don't know what got into him." So she said to the girl, "Girl, you go after your brother, and you bring him back here." And the girl looked at her grandmother and she said, "Is he in trouble?" And Grandma said, yes, he is. So, oh, I'll go get him. And she took off. She couldn't wait to see her brother. And she was going really fast. She got to that bridge, and she got onto the bridge, and up rose the great, huge bear. And the bear said, who's that walking across my bridge? And the girl looked at him. I said it was huge. Looked at him and said, it's just me. I'm just looking for my brother. He should have a little poke sack of sody saleratus. I saw him. I ate him. And I'm going to eat you too. And down she went. Meanwhile, back at the house, Grandma, I don't know what's got into those kids. They're usually so good, especially if I'm going to be baking. So she said to her husband, dear, would you please go and fetch those children back there? And so her husband got his hat, put it on, and went walking down. He was not quite as fast as the kids were, but he was walking. And he got to the bridge. And he stepped onto the bridge. And when he stepped onto the bridge, up rose that great, huge bear. And the bear said, who's that walking across my bridge? And the old man said, it's me. I'm looking for my grandkids. You seen them around here anywhere? Yeah. A little girl about so high with pigtails. Little boy so high with a poke sack. Yeah, that sounds like them. I ate him, and I'm going to eat you too. And he grabbed the grandfather and swallowed him down. It was a big bear. Meanwhile, back at the house, Grandma was waiting and waiting. She could not figure out what had gotten into everybody. I mean, they all loved her biscuits. So she figured there had to be something going on. She would go after him. She grabbed her shawl, put it around her shoulders, and headed off down the road. When she got to the bridge, it seemed odd. She looked around, didn't see anything, so she started walking across the bridge. And when she got about halfway across the bridge, up rose that great, huge bear. And he said, who's that walking across my bridge? It's me. I'm an old woman. What you gonna do about it? Have you seen any kids and an old man? I said, yeah. Old man, not much hair, hat. Little girl, pigtails. Little boy, poke sack. Yeah, that's him. I seen him. I ate him. And I'm gonna eat you too. Oh, and he did. There's a bit of a problem there. Bear's eaten everybody who could save him, hasn't he? No, he hasn't. There's one character left, and that was their pet squirrel. He was on the mantelpiece over the fireplace, and he was running back and forth, going, where is everybody? Where is everybody? I don't know what they're... And when nobody came back, he said, well, I guess if you have to do something, you got it. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So he hopped down from the mantelpiece, skittered out the door, and skittered on down to the bridge. And when he got to the bridge, he got one little furry paw on the bridge, and up rose that great, huge bear, who was much fatter now. And the bear said, who's that walking across my bridge? The squirrel said, it's me. You see my people? Old woman with a shawl, old man, not much hair, hat, girl, pigtails, boy, poke sack. Yeah, that's him. I want him back. I said, no, I ate him, and I'm going to eat you too. And the squirrel just looked at him and said, hey, and took off. And you know how fast squirrels can run. They are very fast. But bears can run very fast too. So the squirrel looked around and he saw a tree. And he started skittering right up the tree. Bears can climb trees. And the bear started climbing the tree right up to the squirrel. And the bear got up pretty close to the squirrel, and the squirrel was looking around. He was running out of tree. And he looked and he saw another tree. And he thought he would do what squirrels do very well. So he jumped from one tree to the other tree. And the bear looked at him and said, if that puny little squirrel can jump from this tree to that tree, well then by golly, with my fine big legs, I can do it too. And so the bear jumped. This is where I usually pause for a small lesson in physics. There's something called gravity. And the heavier something is, the harder it is to keep it up. So that when the bear jumped, he got about halfway and gravity kicked in. And the bear went straight down and broke wide open. Out came the old woman, the old man, the little girl, the little boy, and he was still holding that poke sack of sody saleratus. Well, Grandma sat down on a log nearby and had them bring her the bear. And she had her sewing kit because she was a Girl Scout in her youth, and she always had a sewing kit with her. So she sewed up the bear skin, and they woke her up, and she said, "Now, Bear, you mind me. I don't want to see you around these woods ever again. And I don't want to hear about you going after any humans. And if I do, I'm going to send the squirrel after you." And they all went home, and the bear went off, was never seen again. But when they got to the house, Grandma made the biscuits. And when they came out of the oven, they were high and flaky and golden, and they smelled so good. And the old woman broke one open and put a little butter on it and a little honey on it, and she gave it to the squirrel. And that's a story called Sody saleratus.